So I'm Melanie Scoggins. I work with the Town Economic Development Office. I'm a business retention and development manager. I work for Russell Seymour. He's our director. He's standing in the back there. And prior to COVID, there were HUBZone meetings quarterly, and then they fell off. And then we have Lisa and Bob Cusack, who have custom software systems.
Very good.
Thank you. And Kevin Cassidy, who has Clear Focus, and that's where we are in his office today. And they have a consortium that they have started, and they want to meet quarterly again. And the town wants to support that. So this is the first one of those meetings that they are having. Thank you very much. I think there's a lot of interest, and we're happy to learn what you are going to teach us this evening. And you are going to go through an interactive panel, activity, and they're going to ask you a couple questions to figure out what they need to talk to you about. And then after that, you can have snacks. They can have snacks during, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes,
We have
there's
snacks
Eat.
during.
Yeah.
And then you can network. Just housekeeping. There's codes to the restrooms. They're right here. And then Wi-Fi if you need it. And just want to recognize before we get started that Mayor Kelly Burke is here, Councilman Dr. Todd Semino Johnson is here, and Councilman Neil Steinberg is here. Can they identify themselves? Hello.
Okay, Vice Mayor Steinberg.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll get it right.
And Dr. Hudson Johnson, Councilman. Hi, Dr. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Oh, what a great showing. Bob, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm thinking about if I can log into this, I can let people in.
Oh, good.
Bob Cusack, Custom Software Systems. I started Custom Software Systems a long time ago, 1990. So we've been in business for a long time. We do federal government contracting. Like you said earlier, surprise, surprise, right? A lot of companies around here do that. And we're based right here in Leasburg, and we're going to go through the corporate profile here. But so long story short, I did a lot of work for FDIC during the financial crisis. I got inundated there at FDIC, supporting their enterprise information management area, doing their data analytics, business intelligence type support for Chairman Bear at the time. And Lisa, who's a CPA, I was busy with the client. We grew a little bit with that, right? When the economy goes down, FDIC goes up. Lisa took the bull by the horns and started running the back end of the company while I managed and stayed with the client and the technical side. So we made it a WASB in 2009. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then we were based in Leasburg at the time when it became a HUBZone. And we went to actually council meetings they were having at the time to understand more about the HUBZone program. And we were at the Mason Enterprise Center at the time at 202 Church Street. So we were renting at the HUBZone, and Lisa did all the paperwork. Her CPA hands did all the paperwork for the HUBZone, and we sent it to our attorney for review, and he said that's about the most perfect paperwork I've seen for HUBZone submission. He had like one correction, I think, if that was it, right? And I think that wasn't even a correction. But what year were we HUBZone certified, Lisa?
2014.
2014. Do you want to add anything to that?
I think so. I think you've covered all the bases.
Okay.
Bob, do we want to start off finding out who has the HUBZone certification?
Oh, yeah, good idea.
I think so.
Yeah. So who here is currently HUBZone certified? So, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
everybody. Cool.
So everybody. So I don't have to ask my next question. Who wants to get HUBZone certified?
How about people on the
On the line.
call? Is there anybody on the call who does not have their HUBZone certification? Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah. I think that would be.
So Bob, we'll just breeze through the slide just in case there's anybody.
Yeah.
And we can make these slides available afterwards, which would be great.
Plus you're recording. So everybody should know that this is being recorded.
Yes. Okay.
And if
And
you
there's
have an
feedback
objection,
here
let
for
us know.
anybody
We'll
who's
stop the
bashful.
recording. Are there any objections?
No.
Okay.
Good. All right. Just real quick about Clear Focus. We were founded in 2012. We're HUBZone since May of 2014. We have 2 active HUBZone contracts at the moment, provide advanced cybersecurity services. We do both government, commercial work, but I would say as the years went on, we're probably mostly commercial, government at this point. we've got the certifications we're all working for to become, to get those contracts ISO and CMMI. But we've been in this building. In fact, the town of Leasburg was very nice when the HUBZone started in 2013. They provided a job fair. They provided a list of all the openings for you can lease within the HUBZone. It made it very easy for us to find this place and then also hire some of our first HUBZone employees. So it's been great. So it's just us, and I will just some advantages of the program, and I think you all know that, the people that are certified as a HUBZone, but you can get sole source awards up to $4.5 million. I will tell you that's not easy to do because you have to have that threshold where they have to prove that no other company can do what you're doing. Otherwise, they want to put it out for bid. So it's not quite as easy as an 8A sole source. Is everybody familiar with the rules around that to get a sole source for HUBZone? Okay, but what's more prevalent is HUBZone set-aside contracts, which are, obviously goes out. HUBZones can go after it, even a limited competition HUBZone. What we found after trying to go after two HUBZone sole sources, contracting officers dismissed it and said it needed to go out for competition. They came out as a HUBZone set-aside. So a lot of the HUBZone set-asides you see out there may have been caused by somebody wanting to get a sole source award. It's good. You can get a 10% price evaluation preference. We were talking about that before for the meeting. If you have a full and open contract, that's great, but it also can't be on a GSA schedule, which is not considered full and open, which I didn't know until Bob mentioned it. So, large businesses often need HUBZone companies to meet their small business goals. And I know in our experience, we found that we were able to get a lot of subcontracting work out of that. Questions before, again, this is probably 101 for you all.
Yeah, this is an open forum, so just jump in.
Lisa, do you want to just
absolutely.
quickly about the,
Sure, and I'm sure everybody here knows, since you're already certified, the HUBZone program eligibility requirements. You have to be a small business by SBA standards, owned and controlled at least 51% by U.S. citizens. Principal office must be located within a HUBZone area, and 35% of your employees must reside in any HUBZone.
Which is the challenge.
Yes.
yes, which
It's
we'll
not
talk about.
33%, it's 35%.
Yeah.
So experiences with the program. Well, I'll talk about positives. Bob will talk about negatives.
Challenges.
Challenges. Okay. What's a positive impact to the community and to people? I will tell you that two of the people we hired for minimum wage at the job fair over the Best Western now make over six figures, and they own their first home. So that shows you that this program really works, and I know Bob and Lisa do, and we really believe in the program. It's not only just a way to get preference or try to get contracts or get your name out there and try to win new awards, but it's also a great way to help the community. I think the HUBZone was widely successful. I don't think there's any vacant space left in the HUBZone, so it definitely took care of the community. And Leasburg, I think the impact on Leasburg is just a lot of the areas that people needed jobs. It really helped out. So I think it's good for that. So that's a big positive. It's a discriminator that's very hard to get. As you all know that have a HUBZone, you've got to keep 35% of your employees residing in a HUBZone. So a lot of companies, as they scale, can't keep up with it. So when you meet another company, let's say a large business that's looking for a teaming partner, if you're a HUBZone, that's great. That's a button for them in their small business contracting plan that they know at least they have a HUBZone on their team. And so it's rare. You'll see a number of 8As, you'll see a number of women-owned, service disabled veteran, but you don't always see HUBZones because it's really hard to do. And also contracting officers, they're a lot more amenable if they're, especially OSDBUs and other people in government that are going, gosh, we're not meeting our HUBZone goals. They like to see when you're a HUBZone.
Are you sharing on Teams? Because this is what I'm seeing.
Oh, I thought I was sharing. Let's do it all over again, as they say. I guess not. Let's see. Thank you for checking, Bob.
Someone raised their hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're sharing. It's all good.
Okay.
Now I see it.
Now's the test is am I sharing full screen? And I'll do that in a second. Does it look full screen to you?
Not there. You go.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Government can get direct access to your services through the HUBZone program, through a sole source limited HUBZone or a limited HUBZone competition. Our two HUBZone awards were just that. They wanted to get to us. In one case, a contracting officer out of the blue called me and said, "Hey, you're on the GSA HACS, which is a highly adaptive cybersecurity services program." And we said, "You do this work in your HUBZone. Would you like to do this work?" Which, gosh, whoever gets a call like that, I had to hang up and see if I was dreaming that somebody actually called us for that. But what ended up happening is it ended up going out to be competitive in a limited HUBZone sole source, but we ended up winning it. The other case, we had somebody who specifically wanted us, and they were told by the contracting officer that you couldn't do a sole source because they could find other companies to do the cybersecurity work we're doing. And so it ended up being a limited competition. So that was our experience. In the best in class contracts, and people have been going after CIOSP4, not to pour water into or acid into the wounds of CIOSP4, but Polaris, other things, even BPAs at agencies. There'll be a HUBZone pool. It'll be limited competition. Instead of going full and open in small business, you can do it in a smaller pool. And then large primes like to subcontract you. You do have to build a relationship for it. Back in 2014 when we started, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. We're HUBZone now. People are just going to beat down our door and give us work. And, big businesses are going to love us. And you have to develop a relationship with a large business. They have to know that you have capabilities that they care about. They got to know you're a good performer. But the fact that you're HUBZone, they're more than likely to add you to team. We have a lot of subcontracting work that came out of big primes like Accenture and Deloitte and Booz Allen wanting to hit their small business goals. So I'm going to turn over to Bob to hit challenges, not negatives.
Challenges. So I'm going to hit what you just talked last about first.
Okay.
So companies will come, and I think maybe people have this experience, to get you as a subcontractor, to get your HUBZone. And they have subcontracting plans which they don't have to meet, right? And there's no teeth to that. So they never meet their subcontracting plans and you never get work. And they don't care because there's no teeth to those contracts. That's something that we think is going to hopefully change. I don't know if the HUBZone Council, which I know Laverne knows about, I don't know if there's a National HUBZone Council that has a lobbying part of its leg that goes to Congress and talks about these issues. And one of those issues is that subcontracting plans are not adhered to by their primes because the primes make more profit if they don't have to bring up their subcontractors, right? And they're also, the other thing they're talking about is double, triple counting. So you do an 8A set aside, and the company is a HUBZone and a WASB or SDVOSB, and they get, even though it's an 8A set aside, they get check marks for WASB and 8A, even though it's a HUBZone set or an 8A. If it's HUBZone, they get the HUBZone check mark. They're going in front of Congress to stop that. So if it's an 8A contract, they count 8A, nothing else. So that should start pushing more stuff out of HUBZone, hopefully. Going down this list, contracting officers don't fully understand, right? So, and this is nothing against the other socioeconomic categories, right? Because we're WASB also. HUBZone is the only program in the federal government, socioeconomic, that gives back to the community. Has to, requirement. There's not that does give back, but is required to give back to the community, right? So you have to have your employees that live in a HUBZone. You have to have your office in a HUBZone. You have to show up in your office in a HUBZone. So you're paying mortgage or rent in the HUBZone. You're hiring people from any HUBZone in the country, but I think most people try to stick to the HUBZone that they're in, right? So Lisa, can you talk a little bit just about so you had the challenge, Laverne, about employees, right? So about what we do.
Sure. So most of our HUBZone employees, when we were first gearing up, were administrative. It was hard to find billable folks in the HUBZone. So you only have so much administrative work as a small business. You can't just create nothing, additional work for them to do. So I worked with Kendra Dion. She used to work for the town. First, she was at the Loudon Workforce Resource Center, and then she became a town employee working in economic development. And she was, totally rocking with the HUBZone too, with all of us. And I told her, I said, what I would love to do is be able to provide meaningful jobs to folks where I could work with the local charities or other organizations to provide paid volunteer. I would pay them as volunteers to be the hands and feet of CSS in our community. And so Kinder worked with me and we set up a program. And I'm also friends and colleagues with a couple of the job coaches here in Loudoun County. And we're actually providing jobs to disabled individuals in Leasburg who can only work a certain number of hours a week anyway with their disabilities, but they need to get out of their homes. They need the social interaction and to feel like they're doing something meaningful. So we employ disabled individuals to work with various organizations here in the community, work that they're able to do. It's not high stress. It gets them out of their houses and out of their homes. And they've actually built some wonderful relationships and wonderful friendships. And it's been just such a positive influence.
And you kind of more snow.
Right. And, as well as other, there's a lot of programs here that we're working with. But and so that became our way to meet our HUBZone goals. My first, the first thing you do when you hire somebody new is you check their address and see if they're, a billable person who's in the HUBZone, and few and far between. But and then, if I need to ramp up on another HUBZone person, I reach out to the job coaches here in the county, and if there's somebody that they know of who would like to be out working in the community, then they. We meet them and find out what they want to do and work with the organization to get them onboarded.
So if that's something you're interested in doing, let us know. We'll make some contacts.
Yeah.
But that way,
it's been a wonderful program.
So one of the biggest issues we found with hiring all these administrative folks isn't just it's management of those folks and what they're doing and making sure they're doing real work.
Right.
But this puts management of those folks to somebody else. Right.
But we also, but our
employees.
Right. But we oversee the program that we have
We oversee the
too,
program.
so that we know what they're doing and who they're working with and touch base with them, take them out to lunch, and which is also a treat for them to get up to.
And that actually goes to the next bullet, right?
Yeah.
Bob, can I just go back to our first bullet?
No, I'm
briefly?
talking.
Oh, come on. Just real quick. We found that a lot of contracting officers don't understand the HUBZone program.
Definitely.
They don't understand the FAR clause that it allows a sole source. They're afraid to go do it. And sometimes you really have to educate them. We're currently working on one now where we had, I think it's FAR 161306, that actually specifies all the things you have to fulfill for a sole source. It's not an easy button for them, so that's why they don't do it. The other thing is they're discouraged to put something out at a HUBZone. They know if they do at 8A, they'll have, I had a woman at Department of Labor say, I can throw a stone and hit a good 8A company that can do cybersecurity. If I put it out HUBZone, how do I know I'm going to get enough HUBZones going after it? Now, I think that's a misnomer because we know there's a lot of great qualified HUBZone companies, but they're just resistant to do that. And so I know a lot of what the lobbying efforts do, and Bob's going to talk about that later, is to really educate the federal government to actually work with HUBZones. They don't. It's just something that they don't know as well as the other programs.
Yep, absolutely.
Sure.
Of course.
The jobs that you're looking for, are they degree jobs? Are you looking for people with degrees?
It depends, it depends on, sometimes they don't require a degree. For the most part, they do. And they're, at least in the fields we're in, they're high-tech jobs. So
Sure.
they've got to have a good bit of skills to back up their degree as well.
And the job definition is made by the government, not by us.
Yeah.
So the federal government says we have a data architect and they need to have a master's degree in data science, or we're looking for a developer one, and they need to have a bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience. And we have to follow those rules. If we don't, then they can go back and charges for charges that we made, charges back. We can get contracting officer approval. But we're also seeing, I don't know if you're seeing this, Kevin, but we're seeing those lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, especially since there's a shortage of technical professionals. They're
Right.
they're easing up on the degree. But I would say the other thing is that, for our HUBZone employees that are in the HUBZone program for us that are maybe not billable, we would take all kinds of folks. They don't have to have a degree, and we would train them up. And
Absolutely.
part of what we're trying to do is train people and give them job skills. And again, people, they stay with your company and they take on larger roles. So
Do a job fair every year for college kids.
yeah, I would.
So they need, right, and for us, so if they don't have a degree, then we would be interested in them if they were in the HUBZone.
They used to have a HUBZone job fair.
They did,
Actually,
yeah.
Kindred did that, I think, yeah. That's something that we could think about doing again, right? It's part of the, but actually, I think EDC did that at one time, or was it the workforce?
The workforce, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. And we hired our initial HUBZone employees from that fair, and a number of them are still with us after 10 years.
And you are allowed to ask where they live, so that's not a discriminatory question, because it's a government requirement to being part of the HUBZone that they live in a HUBZone. So that is a question you can ask.
I threw you off candidates, sorry.
That's okay. It's all fitting together. Hard to find billable employees that reside. We talked about that. I think a goal that one of my goals is to talk, and I've done this at the last HUBZone. I was telling Mayor Burke this one earlier. Is that I was on a panel at the National HUBZone Conference this year, and afterwards the GSA folks, and I was actually talking about that we hire folks from. There's that we have a trailer park in the middle of Leasburg. Very few people know about. We hire from that trailer park, and they were interested about the GSA folks, GSA contracting folks, were interested about how we do that hiring, right? They didn't know that we have to hire these folks from the HUBZone. So we actually did a presentation. We actually did a presentation. They asked us if we would do a presentation to their GSA contracting officers. We said, sure. So they did it, and there was like 125 contracting officers that joined that presentation. That was in November, December timeframe last year.
Yeah.
And we were able to show them, okay, so and again, you have Biden administration pushing out that you have to give to the economically disadvantaged communities, right? And all the contracting officers think that's 8A, pushing 8A. But what you're doing when you push 8A, and this is nothing against 8A, unless the 8A wants to contribute to the communities, you're paying the owner, right? HUBZones have to give back to those to those economically under disadvantaged communities. We're required to. They didn't understand that. As I walked them through that, they started understanding it. They're like, oh, we're getting it. Maybe you're going to see a difference. Well, I haven't seen it yet. I don't think any of us have, right? But at least we got in front of 125 contracting officers that could possibly start pushing stuff out HUBZone. So we're kind of waiting to see if that actually starts happening. Monday, I start with the Army for a 6-month stay. This is something that we volunteered for. It's called the Public Partner Trade Exchange Program, where they're supposed to send people to work for us, and I work for them for 6 months. And I'm working at the Pentagon with the head of the Small Business Administration for the Army to help them understand the challenges of small businesses getting work. And I'm going to push HUBZone big time when I'm in there talking to them. And actually, they may be on here now because I invited them to come in and be a fly on the wall.
Bob,
I actually have pushed HUBZone.
We have 14 people on our Teams call.
Great.
So welcome everybody on Teams and ask questions.
And they probably know that because actually one of the guys that I'll be working with who's excellent. He received an award from the HUBZone conference last year is James Lloyd. And that's what he does is the HUBZone program. And just help them understand, right, what's in there. And I'm very much looking forward to that opportunity. But what made us happy is they were happy about it, right? They were really excited about that opportunity to be able to work with a small business to get that communication going. And that actually has the attention of the Undersecretary of the Army. So this is one of his things that he wants to do is start more communication with the public. So hoping that we can do something there as well.
Is there a centralized database where anyone can actually look for employees with certain skill set? Because generally that has always been the challenge, at least for me, to find people who can actually be billable and have skills that are relevant.
So separate from this, we started like a Leasburg HUBZone consortium. That's just the businesses.
Okay.
And this is kind of part of that piece. But that was something that we were discussing in that doesn't exist unless there's something in the National HUBZone Council that has that.
You know, what we found we've done is our recruiting team, when we look for technical professionals, we actually check the HUBZone map, and the HUBZone map is very easy to use. They've upgraded it, and we try our best to try to find people, especially with remote work now, who live in a HUBZone.
When you're saying a centralized database, I don't think anything like that exists anymore. I think at one time, maybe when we were all trying to gear up when Leasburg, had our first census tract designated, a HUBZone area, I think we were keeping track of that. The town, I think economic development was helping keep track of that, and the Mason Enterprise Center at the time, so that we could share resources, 40 hours a month. But I do know that the National HUBZone Council is starting a resume database that you can check out. And I just was in it for the first time the other day because I got pinged because we're members. And so I logged into it, and they had lots of people with different skills. So if you were looking for somebody who had technical abilities, if you were looking for somebody who had more administrative or accounting, and it also says whether they're looking for something more full-time or part-time, because some of them were college students. So that is definitely a resource if you visit the National HUBZone Council website.
So do you have to be a member to get access?
I don't believe so. I think you can get access to the
I'm going to give a
database.
shout out to them, though. I think it's worthwhile becoming a member.
Oh, it is. It is. We've I guess.
They've helped us.
Yeah, there's just and as the years have gone by, too, the National HUBZone Conference has been in Chantilly every
You
year.
need to get it in Leasburg.
And yeah, but they've even originally it was more like a very basic, all the outreach or events or the classes that you could attend, the sessions or whatever were more basic for becoming HUBZone certified, and now they address more of the challenges. And they have this wonderful Madison group, who is the lobbying group, who's really trying to get make sure that HUBZone is first and forefront in some of the legislative changes that have been happening over the years. But they really are a great group of people, and they're fighting for us.
Oh, I can't think of her name, the one that heads it up.
Michelle.
Michelle Burnett.
Yeah, she's great.
Michelle Burnett. She's
She
wonderful.
takes a personal interest in
She
what your issue is.
absolutely
If you
does.
go to her directly,
Yeah.
she'll take a personal interest in what your issue is and try to help you. So we think it's well worth.
Definitely.
We don't push much.
No,
Getting through this. Let's see.
I think that's everything.
Program doesn't pay right off. It should. Many pursue strategies. So everybody thinks that the HUBZone's a silver bullet. You guys probably don't because you've been in it, right? But that's what people start getting to the program thinking, oh boy, I'm going to be HUBZone certified and I'm going to start winning contracts.
Yeah, it works. It's going to come.
It doesn't work that way. So even contracting officers will tell you, I don't want to hear that you're HUBZone. I want to hear what your capabilities are and that you can do the job. That your HUBZone is secondary, right? That may come into impact or it may not. That's why I think our goal is kind of to start getting stuff pushed more to the HUBZone side. So it's HUBZone companies competing within the same pool, right? So it's not a silver bullet.
No, and I think persistence was kind of important.
And
I mean, just like anything
timing.
else, you have to. Anytime you want to get into any agency, obviously you have to market yourself. But even the primes, we met with one prime, Ostabu the first time, and then we were back there again when we first got our HUBZone certification. Then we came back a third time.
And she's like, who are you?
Yeah, and every time it was like oh, so nice to meet
Yes.
you. Yeah. And then as soon as we walked out the third time, a PM came in and said, hey, I need a HUBZone company. I just lost my HUBZone company on this contract. And she said, oh, these guys just came in, handed him. And so again, it was just timing, persistence and timing. And that
we were literally ready, thinking about leaving the HUBZone program in 2014. or 2015?
15.
Because you're paying out all this money, right? You're paying out a lot of money for
Yeah,
this
you're
program.
it's an investment.
Yep.
It's an investment in the community. You're creating jobs.
And GSA schedule, the same thing.
Yes.
And then we had a partner come to us who said, I'm on this contract to Treasury, it's flipping to HUBZone. I'll write the proposal and bring the team. Do you guys want to take it? We're like, yes. So that was a prime award, $10 million award for Treasury Fiscal Service, which they actually flipped to WASB in 2020, which we were WASB. So we were re-awarded that contract. They doubled it in 2020. But that was our HUBZone success story. Now the only HUBZone work we really have is with subcontracting. Yeah, but we're still persistent in trying. Again, persistence and timing. That's right. You got to have the right bait in the right water at the right time for that right fish to come by, right? And primes are not held to their small business plans. That's what I brought up first. That's what we talked about already.
Good.
And again, anybody have anything they want to say?
Yeah, any other positives or challenges you want to share? Okay. So some lessons learned. We talked about it. Not a silver bullet. Use as part of a multifaceted pursuit strategy. Again, a number of you have been in the HUBZone for a while. This is really geared towards people first getting into it. Again, people who don't have their HUBZone, we used a law firm. It was Co-Prince Law. Now they've kind of expanded their partners, but they helped us out a lot. We were able to get in and fly right through the process because of that. So it was a good investment. Build relationships with large primes, as I said before. The primes have to know who you are, and it's not just because you're a HUBZone. So, but you'd be surprised if you get to be their HUBZone company. They bring you to a lot of different proposals, and when they win them, you're able to get some work share out of it. Sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do.
Since HUBZone employees only have to work 40 hours, we have an opportunity in this HUBZone and any HUBZone to share employees. I know over the years we've done that. I know CSS and ClearFocus, we have a number of employees that work in both companies, so that works out. We have some people that work up to 4 different HUBZone companies as a full-time job. We've tried to, in the past, tell the HUBZone program that it would be much better if they would just count one employee as 4 different. If it can only do 40 hours, why hire 4 people part-time? I'd rather hire 1 full-time person with benefits and all that. And I don't know, Bob, has that gotten any traction over the years?
When Maria Pardo was there, we talked to her about that. She was the head of the HUBZone program for the SBA, but that was years ago, and that hasn't gone anywhere. What we might want to do is talk to Shiraka about that.
Okay. Yeah, because we have a lot of HUBZone employees, and it's hard to keep them all busy and active. And the HUBZone program is actually really cracking down, and they're really making sure that you have job descriptions and you have specific duties that they do and times they work, not just paying people on your roster. And we've been accused of having that happen at times just for sheer time, to manage them. So. Hopefully there'll be changes in that, but you can share employees, and I think that's great, especially if they do a similar role for different companies. And the other thing is you can get other HUBZones, and you've heard this before, get a bunch of your friends to go after an RFI, may become a HUBZone set aside. And I heard that so much, I was just tired of hearing it, because we did a lot of RFIs and they didn't become HUBZone set asides. But, you just have to keep trying, and the more you can get in front of a contracting officer and lobby for that and prove that there are a lot of other companies that go after it. I know there's so few HUBZone set-asides out there. If anything comes out in IT or cybersecurity for HUBZone, there's going to be like 30 people going after that or more. There's a lot of qualified HUBZone companies out there to do that.
And I think a point like Tiffany and I were talking before, that not just RFIs, but if you have a trusted partner, right, who's also a HUBZone, and you're pursuing a contract, talk about teaming up so that you both go after it, so that you have the rule of 2. Right, if nobody's going after it.
Yeah.
So, for example, you had an opportunity where only you went after it and you lost it because you didn't have the rule of 2. And so the rule of 2 is you have to have at least 2 HUBZone companies that are going to go after the opportunity.
And you could have maybe it's not in your area, but you can have somebody put something in to help you out, and maybe you get some work share later on. And we have to be cooperative to grow the program.
And joint ventures, I think we talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. But, Bob, you want to take the next slide?
I don't know, what is it?
The hard one. No,
Didn't go, did it?
I did. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
See it?
The HUBZone lessons learned?
Yeah. Yes. Strive
Oh.
to.
It's another one.
It's
Okay.
a second slide.
Oh, it's the second slide. You should put 2 of 2 on there.
Okay.
Are you confused?
Yes, I am. I'm easily confused. We talked about some of this, right? Strive to get billable HUBZone resources to reduce overhead costs, which is difficult, right? But we call it, those are like the golden egg. And we do have a few of those. But it's mostly out of luck, I guess. They just happen to be in a HUBZone. But now that work is becoming remote and people are able to work remote more, that's actually helping quite a bit.
Yeah. Just use that HUBZone map and
I mean,
Yes.
imagine, so my imagination has that some large organization puts out a help desk, right? A requirement for a large help desk support, and they make it HUBZone set aside. All that work could be here, right? Everybody could be working remote, doing that support, and you could bring that into the HUBZone. And I don't know why they don't consider that, but maybe we can talk to some agencies about considering something like that. Then all those people would be billable. They could also get better wages, and it would bring the money into the economy. And that's what it was initially intended for, I believe, because it was mostly manufacturing that it was for first, and construction. Yep. Build relationships with other small businesses. We talked about that. So JVs. Work together, go after RFIs together, even team up and even bid stuff separately, knowing that if you win it, you're going to get a work share, right? Or the other company will. Consider creating joint ventures, same thing. So actually, Kevin and Claire Plus CSS are in a joint venture together that we pursued CIOSP4. But if anybody knows the CIOSP4 story, the large mentor protege joint ventures kind of took that over. If anybody knows does anybody know what a mentor protege JV is? Okay. And we didn't make the down cut for that, but we also created a mentor protege JV, and we were pursuing Polaris on 3 swim lanes on that. And mentor protege is next, and join the National HUBZone Council and attend the conference. Meet a lot of other businesses from across the nations. We met Laverne and EDJ, and we've actually worked together and trying to get some business together since we met. That was over a year and a half ago, right? 3 years. Next slide, Kevin.
to you, Lisa.
And let's see. So the HUBZone maps have been frozen. And so as of June, starting July 1 of this year, they are unfrozen. And we just found out they have a draft of the new HUBZone map. You know, obviously you use the current HUBZone map to find out if somebody's in a HUBZone. But if you look at the draft of the HUBZone map that's going to be coming out July 1, Leasburg has 2 census tracts currently that are in our HUBZone. One of the census tracts is dropping off. So now we're back to our original census tract that we started with in 2012.
And do you know if that's going to be good for the next 10 years?
I think it's, isn't the redesignated area good for 3 years?
He's talking about the new set,
The smaller
the
HUBZone.
existing census tract.
Oh, is it what?
Is it good for the next 10 years? Because the original track was good for 10 years based on the 2020 census. In 2013, they had it for 10 years.
Right.
Now, is this new, based on the 2020 census, is this new one that was just designated this year?
I believe so.
Good for 10 years.
I believe so, but
Okay.
don't quote me on that. I'm not sure.
Does anybody know?
Not sure how all that
How
works.
can we find out which track is getting dropped and wherever you have the office?
Right there.
The HUBZone map, actually.
Yeah, the HUBZone map. You have to click
So the O&D trail, WO&D trail, I think is the line that breaks the two of them. So this
right
side of the
Oh.
O&D trail is good.
The
The
town
other
has an
side,
app.
the
Perfect.
other side to Route 15 is the one that's dropping off.
So when will they publish, for example, right now, you can just go to HUBZone map 2022 and punch in the address on that.
Yeah. So when you look at when you go to the HUBZone map, there's a little link on the very top that says, preview HUBZone map as of July 1. So you can click on that link and it takes you to the new HUBZone map that will be out there as of July 1.
The preview link will show the
Yes.
23 onward.
And
Yes.
you have 3 years, right?
Yes.
After it's designated non-HUBZone, you have 3
Yeah,
years.
so it'll be
So
phasing out in 3 years.
So you can still stay in your existing location for 3 years and still be
Considered a hub zone.
Considered hub zone,
Yes,
even though that they have,
yes.
all
And
right.
they show it on the map as redesignated for 3 years and then it goes away. So they actually see those lines like that on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, is there any database option where you can go and look for only HUBZone opportunities? Because when things come on eBay or something like that, you really have to open up everything
Yeah.
to figure out if it is not.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you been able to fine tune a search so that you can only get?
On eBay,
Not an
Hub
eBay.
zone?
not on
But
eBay.
if you have GovWin,
Or
you know,
Gov, or
GovWin is a good way to do it.
GovTribe too is much less expensive than
Yeah.
GovWin.
Yeah.
Small businesses, right? You can refine your search on that, and then I don't know if you use it, that can send you an email every morning of what comes up with that a lot, right? Big goose egg.
yeah, not a lot of them.
Yeah. But in eBay, I have not found a way to tailor it for just HUBZone.
There's 2 other points that I'm doing.
Okay, yeah, and then they came up with this new rule that, if you have an office, if it's a shared office type of situation and you're HUBZone certified, your office must be behind a locked door. You can't just, I guess at the Mason Enterprise Center, even like, maybe 2 businesses shared one office so they could share the cost. Cause it was your administrative office. Maybe you were there only once a week cause you're billable. But that was no longer allowed. Each company had to be behind its own locked door. So that's a new rule. And that's,
They'll come check.
yep, that's it's challenging for those people who are, very, very small, but they're HUBZone certified. So your office has to be behind a locked door now.
That
So that's
is already in.
That is already in place. That's as of like April 1, I think, or something, April or May of last year. So that's been in existence.
We have
Yeah.
somebody online?
Yeah, so that's another challenge we felt when we were at the Mason building. So when
Yes.
that closed, finding a location is very difficult, and with the map even reducing in the space we have left for office space, is there anything Leasburg is looking at increasing the office space?
So I'll let you know something that we did. We have a building here on Loudon Street, and we rent the whole building. But we had in the past leased office space. We have 2 large offices upstairs. And when the Mason Enterprise Center closed and this new rule came into being, I worked with Michelle Burnett from the National HUBZone Council and the SBA. My question to the SBA, which I CC'd her on, was, hey, we have this large office. It's a historic building. And I don't want to, I'm not putting up walls in the historic part of my building. So what if we have installed 3 locking cubicles? So each cubicle has its own locking door. It's a dedicated space. That's what it said. The wording is it has to be a dedicated space for that company only. You can't have somebody who goes, oh, okay, well, Clear Focus comes in from, 8 a.m. to noon, and then CSS comes in from 1 to 5. You can't share a desk, or the space. The space has to be designated for that one business. So I sent an email to the SBA and CC'd Michelle Burnett, and all they did was regurgitate back to me what the new rule was. And they said, it has to be blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, I'm taking that as a yes. So that's what we did. We put
Michelle backed
3
up.
cubicles. Yeah, and Michelle backed me up, even though she was mad because she felt like that was no answer for me. It was not a definitive answer. And I said, you know what? I'm taking it because it's a dedicated space behind a locked door. They just all happen to be in the same office. So now we have 3 locking cubicles in one office. And actually it's two different HUBZone companies and one WASB have that space now, but it's ridiculous.
So to answer your question, that may be something that, I don't know, we could talk about from the economic development standpoint. Commission is space for hub zones, right, for these companies that have been put out of the mech.
But yeah, put out,
Because
display.
a lot of companies had issues finding space
Yes.
when that happened, because they're not looking to get a whole building, right? They're looking to get one office.
They just need
Right.
a small space.
So I took a note down for that, and we can have a later discussion with some of the folks in this room here.
And then the last new rule that I just had thought of at the top of my head when we were putting this together is now with the annual recertifications, at any time they can ask you for job descriptions for anybody who works, I can't remember what it is, less than a certain number of hours per week. So they would just want to make sure that each of your HUBZone employees is doing meaningful work for your company. So they all have to have job descriptions, and you need to be able to provide those, on a moment's notice if they ask for that on your recerts. So that's something. And of course, with this program that we have with our disabled individuals and our outreach program or whatever, we actually have a little a sheet that the organization that they're working with fills out what their duties are going to be, what's expected of them. So we already have that documented for that program. And then, of course, our administrative folks, we have job descriptions for them as well. So you just want to make sure you have that.
And to the person on the phone, going back to that last question, you can see where the HUBZone is going back to, right? It's a pretty dense area in the town, so there's not a lot of new space available in that area.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge that we have to, I think, talk through.
Yeah, I just pulled up the new map, and it's like almost half of what it is today.
Absolutely, yes.
So all those folks will be moving into a very smaller place.
And this is a desirable place. It's a desirable place too.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's not just the new rule is also that each employee has to have a cube. So it's not just if I have one full-time employee, I now need to have two office space, one for myself and one for the employee. So it's not just having one cube which will solve the problem.
Right.
Bob, is there anything else from the HUBZone Council? I know you and Lisa are very active, and
Lisa's more on top of that than I am. So
they have an advocacy update coming up. Is it in this month, I think? And I get on that and listen every time. I guess they have quarterly advocacy updates, letting us know what they're working on, what's in the works, what looks like it might happen, what hasn't happened. That at least keeps us up to date with what the lobbying group is doing to try to work the HUBZone. Let's see.
So, that's our last slide, but, we're sharing lessons learned from our two companies, but I was wondering, since it seems like our crowd is really been in the HUBZone for a while, a lot of this stuff. Anybody want to share any lessons learned that we haven't talked about or challenges we haven't talked about? Yeah.
I'd like to share a challenge that I have as a small company, and I assume others have similar issues. I can't get these IT help. I need IT help that can come, 3 hours a week or something like that, and that doesn't need a $2,000 a month contract. Does anybody have some sources they can help you with?
I can. There are we have 3 people, HUBZone employees, that do our IT support. And they're really good, and I'm sure they're always looking for more work.
He only charges $1,800 a month.
No, but, we charge them. They do it for extra cash. I think we pay, a reasonable amount.
I brought cards. So
yeah, let's exchange cards afterwards. I'd be glad to share their names.
That wasn't the purpose of this meeting.
No,
that is the purpose of it.
And you can get a HUBZone credit for it.
How can we help each other? Because that's what this is all about.
Well, and then I'll instead of I'll give for a second. We have an application that is really neat because you can use it on a phone to ask people questions and then get their answer on the phone, and it automatically scores them and stuff like that. It's perfect for interviews or automated interviews or anything like that, and it's prime time, but it's a very unusual application. So we use it for testing, and I don't know what anybody would want to use it for, but
yeah.
It's really cool, and it's very cheap, and you can put them
What's
together
it called?
in a day. It's a great application.
What's it called?
Do tell.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I actually have a serious question. Being out of ignorance and anything else. So what are the economic factors that define the geographic boundaries of a hub zone?
I believe, I have to verify this, but I believe it's the income of that area being 65% less than the surrounding area. In that census tract.
So what were the factors that caused this hub zone map to basically be?
So those incomes went up. Those incomes went up.
That must have something to do with type of development that occurred in that area.
I truly believe that. I think the new condos and everything that went up, I think that just brought the median income up. And so it no longer meets the requirements
Probably
for the hub zone.
those condos alone did it.
Yes, I think so. I think they did.
And there are different types of hub zones, right? So this is a census tract hub zone that's based on income. All tribal lands are hub zone. All the state of Hawaii is a hub zone. There are county tracts, which are hub zones based by county, and then areas that might have a natural disaster can become a hub zone, and army bases that close become hub zones.
And Hawaii is affected by the July.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So some of it's coming out.
Today.
Wow.
So what can we as elected officials do to help foster and promote hub zones when oftentimes we have no control whatsoever on the development that's going to occur? And I'm looking at what's left of this hub zone and the realization, for example, that the trailer park is well outside of our control, and there are rumors about what may occur there. And I'm wondering, does something like that rip the heart out of this zone and put it in jeopardy?
So it's not just that was just an example, right? So if you go left of Market Street or right of Market Street coming into town, that entire area, right, is right. That's what creates this area. That's part of this census tract. So that's really the heart of what's causing this to stay a hub zone.
I think ways to help with that is to ensure that there's leasable space for the companies that are looking for it. Otherwise, they won't be in the location. But also the job fairs, I think, were very helpful previously. They were put on, they were encouraged, and for the individuals that lived in that location to come, as well as the companies to come and look for individuals. I look mostly for my admin. That way I can hire anybody. My billable I hire all over, and they can be in hub zones from anywhere. But specifically here in Leasburg, I look at admin positions, which could be any individual we train. So I'm happy with my lease space, so I'm okay with that. But I would like to hire more employees that live.
Yeah.
You had a question?
No, I look at it differently. I see it, the intent is the hub zone to help poor community and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And it's growing. I mean,
You're absolutely right. That the whole purpose, if it's successful,
this program
it goes away.
goes to the hub zone community.
Right. So as long as the result is not displacement, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have building going on that's increasing the incomes, but it's pushing the poor people out. Not because they're getting jobs, it's because they're moving away and the richer people are moving in.
But I don't see that data or, yes, it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the challenge, so from the very beginning, I'm going to tell the Father Lou story. Okay, so when we first started HUBZone, there was a supply priest that came to our church, Father Lou, and he talked real well. My children listened to him. I said, "Oh, Lou, love your preaching." And he's a retired Episcopalian. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm retired. I'm really a BD guy. I do BD." So we needed a BD guy, and we hired him. 6 months after we hired him, Leasburg became a HUBZone. You talk about your outreach guy. He was going everywhere. He goes, "Bob, did you know there's a trailer park in Leasburg? Did you know that there's low income housing over here?" So he was driving all around talking to people. Our challenge from the beginning was getting that side to the right of East Market Street and getting them, because it's mostly Hispanic, right, on that side, is getting that trust to bring people in. We started doing that now through Educondo Conamore, working with actually our current priest, Father Daniel. So he started something because you have there's a lot of mistrust of the Hispanic folks with us on this side, right? Because they're afraid that they're going to call, that there's some illegals there or something, that the law is going to be called. So you got to kind of build that trust. But that's the area where we want to really start hiring from and pulling people in and start training on. But that's been a challenge and continues to be a challenge. So that side has not changed much, right? Side that you're seeing is changing is over here.
And despite displacement, what you talked about, a successful HUBZone goes away. It's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to bring up, areas of the,
right.
Right.
the underutilized areas.
They have a job fair, and when are they doing the next one?
Yeah, that's a good
Good question.
question.
The answer from Leasburg standpoint.
Yeah.
It's doing one March 26th.
That's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
I shouldn't have told her that. That's what we were getting. Yes, ma'am. One of the things that we found with the town job fairs is we were county, and you got a number of entities now that are focusing on high school. Some college, but mostly out of high school. And focusing on, I always want to be high school level. One of the things that we saw when we tried to do it on a Saturday, first of all, don't do it any time. And we tried to do it on Saturday, we were up against soccer games and football games and basketball games and you name it. And so the businesses kept on us Sunday. So that's the target date for what we're doing. And in listening to this, I think it might be a good idea if we tried to double our efforts on the HUBZone, specifically that area as well. But it's reopening up to the entire town.
And it's not industry specific.
No, ma'am.
And so for the folks from the council, and this is not, so how many companies, do you know, Melody, are in the Leasburg HUBZone?
105.
Wow.
So it's not a small number, right? The more people we can get coming to these things, it's going to grow out of Kevin's face. But then we can start understanding the challenges that people are having and hopefully work together, right, to somehow to overcome those challenges. And if we can get people like mayor and vice mayor and councilman coming, then that brings it to the town's attention also, right, of what the needs are of the HUBZone and the companies.
Go out to the one. Yes, it did. Actually, it went out not just to them, but also past certified in 20176, 20175, and 20176.
And we have a number of people on the phone. Last I checked on, it was about 14, maybe more on the phone.
Yeah. Does anybody on the phone have anything? Online?
Oh, there's a question in the back of the room.
Back to that rule of two you mentioned earlier. What's that as a reference?
So that's part of the FAR. Is that in the FAR?
Yeah, I actually have a far backup slide if you want. I know it's an eye chart, but the first one, number one, the contracting officer does not have a reasonable expectation that the that offers would be received from two or more HUBZone small businesses. So if you want to do a sole source, you have to prove there's not two or more that can do that.
So you're the only one who can do that work.
That do the work. Now the other side with the HUBZone set aside.
It's not a requirement of 8A, by the way.
When there's a HUBZone set aside, you have to have another, I think one or two. I think you were involved in one that didn't work out. You need at least one other HUBZone to go after it.
Right, to
So that's the rule.
give
of two.
competition.
Pretty sure they want me to do the work and they're setting it aside as a HUBZone. I don't know that anybody else can or will do it.
That's good.
So
You just need one other person to go after it.
Or you'd have to have the contracting officer write something up saying you are the only company that can do this work.
I've done it for them in the past.
Yeah.
But they'll say you're the only one that you're the only one we know that can do this work. And a lot of times they'll be able to protest it, but then somebody will see it and they'll protest that, right? But when we see it, we're happy. HUBZone's getting to work.
It's like,
But
We have a similar situation now, and that FAR clause up there, we put it in like a market research unsolicited proposal that we put in there. And you have to hit all five of the criteria, but the number one's the hardest. If you can prove that there's not two more people that can do what you're doing, you're good. Obviously, you have to have it's got to be under 4.5 million. You've got to have, can't be an 8A program you're displacing. It has to be, you're going to come up with a reasonable price, and you're a responsible contractor. So I would take FAR 19, 1306, print it out, write something around it and check.
Monitor them, that's why they're putting it as set aside, and so.
Nobody knows about it. They're intending on setting it aside.
Yeah, we've actually seen them put it out on eBay for a day and then take it off.
Yeah,
Right.
the concern we have is that if you go out, sole source is obviously the best thing you want to do,
Yeah.
because if it goes out in the street, there's protests, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong in that. But
Definitely.
but they can do a limited sole source.
But you have to have a contracting officer that's going to work with you.
What's that?
You have to have the contracting officer that's going to work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Sounds like you're in great shape.
That sounds good.
Congratulations.
Still government agency, slow moving, lot of red tape.
Yeah, no, I get it. Other questions? Was anything on the phone? I think, Bob, you're asking on the phone. Anybody? I'm calling a phone. It's Teams, the internet.
But some of the notes that I've got taken down is that and we'll also we'll leave a sign-up sheet out here for anybody who wants to be part of the consortium.
Yeah.
Also, so we started the HUBZone, Leasburg HUBZone Consortium, where we're talking about doing some things that you all were talking about, creating a database of companies, right, and what our capabilities are, so that when we want to partner on stuff, we can search that database and look for companies that we. So you might need cyber, for example, so you can search for cyber, but you may be the prime, right? But then you can find Kevin, right, doing with the cyber work. So we're talking about developing that database, but also the database of HUBZone employees. So this is something that I don't know if the town may want to get involved with that also, but finding employees is a little tougher, right? Because they have to be in the HUBZone, and not just people that are coming in. Somebody's got to verify that they're in the HUBZone and that they're not that they're in the current HUBZone. And again, we could find employees in any HUBZone in the country. Preference is Leasburg, right? And then like your question for IT support, right? So that's things that we could discuss in that.
You can reach out to a forum and we can help each other out.
And then also teaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Opportunities, reviewing opportunities, what opportunities. And as a group, I think we have a little more capabilities to kind of work together on things. So I don't know if we want to just put a sheet out here so people can just sign up. If
Yeah,
they want to be
we could
part
do
of
that for the consortium.
Actually, I think
We had our first meeting in December, and I was supposed to write notes up, and I haven't done that yet, so I'm behind schedule. But the good news is we got an award in December that's been taking my time away. So
Yeah, I think Melanie and Russ put sign-up sheets up on the front desk out there. And if you leave your name and contact information, your email, then we can kind of start that database.
Yeah, we can send an email out to everybody who came to this meeting
Absolutely.
and say, are you interested in joining the consortium?
And I will say the HUBZone program has allowed us to stay on GSA, right, with the first award, get our first prime contract award with, well, FRB was actually the first, I think, prime contract award in Maryland. But also get our secret facility clearance, right, because we're a sub to a prime on a military contract, right? So we're able to get the secret facility clearance. So it has allowed us to progress, right, as a company.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it was a good program. It took a long time to pay off. I think our first
Absolutely.
HUBZone contract was 2019.
And it's still frustrating.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? It's still frustrating. And that's why I think we're all meeting here, to try to kind of figure it out together, right? On how we can.
2019, that was the one where the officer called me up and said, hey, would you like
How long did you get in?
2014?
5
So
years.
5 years.
And you were ready to quit.
Yeah,
Just scared some people.
I did. No, it's not that bad. No, it was. And I can't remember if we got any. I will tell you, over the years, we got invited to a lot of proposal teams because we were HUBZone. So from a marketing point of view, it was always good to have it. I didn't think it was a deficit, even though it took us 5 years to get it. And I can't remember we had any subcontracting work before that. But other experiences anybody wants to share before we break? Or
Before you break, can you ask the people on the teams to drop their emails in the chat so we can email them?
Oh, great. Yeah. So those on the phone, if you can, not the phone, Teams, could you put your email in the chat, and so we can know who attended the call, and we can get back to you with some follow-up actions. Send the slides as well, so if you can do that.
We got everybody written, came in, sign your name and email address. Please do that, and we know we can make sure that all the information goes out.
Yeah. So
And I will say, so non-business HUBZone stuff, It's been a tremendous program. To learn about our community, to learn about the people in the community, to learn about the organizations, right, that Lisa's working with in the community that help people that aren't necessarily working for us on government contracts, but are working for us in other ways. And we're seeing them progress also, not necessarily in a technical way, but in a living way, right? And the relationships. I mean, IDMED is one of them, right? And Loudon Hunger Relief, and a lot of the ones that are in this area that Lisa works with closely that we hire from.
So we have food in there and drinks, and you can stay here as long as you want. Networking. It's always good to meet people, and appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I know it's cold and rainy, and thank you for the town for sponsoring this.
And if you think this was worthwhile, raise your hand.
Oh, good. Okay. Yay. Okay, me too. All right. Thank you, everyone.